Hey everybody, we are here at CPSP 311 North Bakersfield. This is where the double track ends if you're going north or west, and where the double track begins if you're going the other way. There's a little history around here. There's a lot of stuff surrounding this. So we'll cruise around while we wait for a train, check out some of the stuff around here. You can see behind me there, that is the GET facility, Golden Empire Transit. That's the buses for Bakersfield. That's our city stuff. And there's the facing signal for the north end of Bakersfield, control point there. And we'll move across the tracks and see what's over there. All right, moved across the tracks. Some of you may recognize this location from the place where I shot the intro to the automatic equipment identification sites we have, the things that keep track of where our cars are. This is where I started that video. And behind me there, you see the Metro BMX track. Been racing bicycle motocross there for a long time, still pretty popular. At one time there was a radio control race car track over there, but it wasn't as popular as the BMX, so they just turned the whole thing into BMX. I don't know if they still do, but I know at one time they had a big national event here, huge. I hope they still have it. I haven't heard about it in a while, but then I don't keep up with the news that much. All right, let's move on down a little bit towards Pioneer Village. Something I'd like to talk about real quickly. This signal cabin here at North Bakersfield was the old style from SP for many years. And we didn't have any problems with it. People never really broke into it. They used to throw things at it and all that, but when Union Pacific put the new signal system in, they built this cabin here, and they put this fence around it with the concertina wire. And the reason they did that was no sooner than they built that new house, people must have thought that there was something cool in it, so they started breaking into it. This is a pretty heavy homeless area. I was surprised when I drove down here that there are no people down here. You look behind me along that fence, there'd be tents and people and boxes and all kinds of human life forms hanging out over there, but it is completely clean. Now behind me here you see the two taller trees. That behind that fence there is Pioneer Village, Kern County Museum, and it's really awesome. I was in the process of working a deal with them to do a tour of that for my channel. They have the 2914 Southern Pacific steam engine, which was the last steam engine to operate on the San Joaquin division. When they were done with it, they laid a little spur. They went right back there, just beyond the setback signals beyond me. They cut a spur over into there and shuttle that locomotive in there, pulled up the tracks behind it, and it is now a permanent display. Back in 1985, I believe it was, I was invited to come down here with Bill Stocco, Buster Putman, Gene Phillips, and Doug McLean, and they set a working semaphore down there, and I helped them put that all together, and that's the only time in my career I ever worked with a semaphore signal, and Bill Stocco taught me how all the stuff worked on it. I don't remember, it's a long time ago. If you've never been to Bakersfield and you like museums, the Kern County Museum at Pioneer Village is really cool. It's got just about everything you can think of as far as what local history, oil, all that stuff, railroad, everything. It's really a cool museum. And if you are from Bakersfield and you haven't been there, shame on you. Go see it. Take your kids. It's really cool. All right, one more thing I wanted to go over while we were here at North Bakersfield. This is, as I mentioned, the end or beginning of double track. depending on which way you're going. That is looking east toward the yard in Bakersfield. That is looking west toward the Kern River Bridge and Oildale. And right there is an M23 dual control power switch machine made by Union Switch and Signal. I did a piece on how those work and another piece on changing one out. I will link both of those videos in the description below. But you can see on this one, most of the switches, they just have the rods that come out, connect to the rails, and the switch throws. But this is what's called an equilateral switch. It's a long switch, a long turnout, and you can see how the rods come out of the switch machine. Basket rod to the right, front rod to the left, and the rod that has the threads on it there is the point detector rod. It goes up and connects to the point detector in the switch machine. When you see the videos that I did on how the M23 works, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that isn't where this one ends. It comes out here and hooks on, and this is an older style, very old style of helper rod assembly. And it has a lever there. As that throws, that lever in the front, that rod comes out and starts pulling on this rod here. Then pulls on this rod, and through that setup there, it helps the switch throw since the switch points are long. Now, right here, those are switch point rollers. Those switch plates have a hump in them, and as the switch throws, those rollers ride up over that hump like that, help it throw a little more. Back here you have some more helper rods and some more switch point rollers. So that is the basic difference between a normal turnout at the end of a siding, where you may have the main line going straight and the siding turning off at an angle. This doesn't do that. This is equilateral. All right. And before I leave, there you can see what I mean by the switch being equilateral. It throws the same both ways. The turnouts on either side are the same length and degree of a turn. This isn't a very sightly place. It's not very visually pleasing, but it does have a lot of history around it. Hey, let's go down there to the Kern River Bridge. Talk about that a minute. All right, well, we've moved up a little ways. You can see behind me there, you can see the control point at 311 North Bakersfield. But behind me, a little further, you see another bridge. That's the Kern River Bridge. I'm not gonna walk down there because I don't have any on-track safety to protect me walking across these bridges. Don't have a lot of sight distance going back towards Bakersfield, and I don't feel like running from a train or diving into a canal to save my skin. But one of the myths that persist even today about the Kern River Bridge, and the reason that the Southern Pacific Railroad came through this part of town instead of through downtown Bakersfield, the myth is that Bakersfield refused to pay Southern Pacific the subsidies and give them land grants through town. So the Southern Pacific said, to heck with you, we'll just come in another way. So they just came up here on high ground and made their depot at Sumner, their yard and station and everything there. But it had nothing to do with subsidies or grants. William H. Hood was a genius engineer. He laid out almost all of the Southern Pacific between Sacramento and Los Angeles. And this part of Bakersfield was no different. He came down and surveyed the lower ground down where the BNSF is today, where the San Francisco and San Joaquin Valley Railroad, which eventually became the Santa Fe, where they eventually came into town. He had surveyed that. Bakersfield was pretty much a swamp. The river wasn't fully drained. It flooded every year. It had all kinds of little tributaries and swamps alongside it, and Colonel Thomas Baker had been draining those areas so they could start a town down there, but Hood saw that it was soft ground, it was prone to flooding, and so rather than go that way, he stayed up here on high ground, crossed the river right behind us here. It was the straightest and easiest crossing of the Kern River. There's no curve on that bridge or anywhere near it, and it just made good engineering sense, and that is why that was done. All right, well, we'll turn around, sit here, wait for a train. Hope one comes by in a little while. Looks like we got a northbound Union Pacific. Oh, a little local here. That was exciting. Like probably the Formosa local. Headed out, do some work, Lerdo, Formosa, and the surrounding environs. All right, as small as it was and as quick as it was, that was a train at CPSP 311 North Bakersfield. Like, share, subscribe, click on the bell if you want to be notified of future content, and we will see you at the next control point.